Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, and let's figure out what is happening to Tesla stock, what we can expect moving forward, and well, all of that good stuff as per usual. So also, as per usual, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link is down below in the description of the video, at the top of the description. Actually, I might add, for just $3 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. We've been talking to my members about this kind of move happening for quite some time, right? I was saying how, I'm not super convinced about this move. And even on this channel, right, I've been talking many times about how I personally still expect us to come to the bottom of this bullish flag for that fourth touch point, right? Again, it could be a bull flag. You can also look at it as a nice little, cup and handle pattern right here. Let me just go ahead and draw that out really quickly, right? They can look something like this, right? And then we have the handle forming pretty much right now. Whichever way you want to look at it, right? That so far is still a very viable bullish option, actually. So yeah, let's talk about it. Tesla closing the day with a whopping 12.5% drop, a pretty substantial fall on Tesla here, closing the day at $215.50, which obviously compared to the market is obviously an underperformance, but the market itself having a pretty hideous day. I mean, QQQ down 3.5 or 3.6% even, SPY pretty much down 2.3%. Like that's a pretty damn ugly day for the market, right? This is like a pretty decent correction happening for the market, but a very healthy one. And I do think there's a bit more potential to go, right? There's a chance that we stop somewhere around this 460 level. If we drop below that, I think QQQs can drop to about the 445 to 450 level, to where I do think it'll base. So if that were to happen, if QQQs were to drop a little bit further, that will be another about pretty much day like today, really, which, could be a little bit of an issue for Tesla if it decides to follow the market. But let's talk about it, right? So what's, what can we expect from Tesla moving forward, right? Let's talk about that. So, earnings obviously came out yesterday. It was, okay, right? It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't, fantastic. It was all right. It was okay. It was all right. But the future prospect still looks really good in my opinion. But, yesterday we talked about how, the potential false breakout, right? It's not looking super convincing, how all the indicators are still really just not super convincing to me either, right? They look kind of bearish, honestly. Momentum is fading. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and I think that's pretty much quite evident today, right? Obviously with this massive fall for Tesla stocks. So moving forward, this is what I expect. I mean, honestly, I know it might sound crazy, but and I've been saying this for a long time, but this is where people will come out and start saying the opposite. But when we were up here, I was being cautious a little bit, right? I did enter position, like I said yesterday before the earnings call, right? Half of my usual core position, again, core position, not available total position I can buy, just my core position. Half of that I did re-add it today, and I have a good amount of cash still left to buy quite a bit if we go even lower, and I will continue to add. Now, I still think this is fine. Like I honestly think, I know this may seem all doom and gloom, but I honestly think the chart still looks fine, right? Like I said, this is still a bullish flag. Like we're still within this flag, right? We came pretty damn close to touching the bottom of it today, but there's a chance we go a little bit lower, right? A little bit lower, closer to about 213. Honestly, if it happens tomorrow, it could even be a bit closer to the gap fill, closer to like 209, 210, somewhere around that range, right? Somewhere around this gap fill range to 213, anywhere in between that range. Honestly, at this point, would not be surprised to see that flush. Honestly, like tomorrow morning, even, right? Get a bit of a flush, and then I think hopefully from there we can get a rally back upwards and maybe close with the hammer candle or something like that. That will be ideal. But I am buying this dip, right? I did buy in tranches, right? I bought in the pre-market yesterday, I bought today, I will buy most likely tomorrow at this rate, right? And I will continue adding, right? I have some sold cover calls from yesterday, I bought them back, resold fresh cover calls when we pumped up today a little bit. But yeah, so overall, the way I look at it is, again, we have this bull flag. I expect us to come back down a little bit further to really touch the bull flag. But again, whether you want to look at it as a massive bull flag, whether you want to look at it as a massive cup and handle, or now we're obviously forming the handle, it's still technically bullish, right? It's still technically a bullish pattern, if you will, in play. A very large cup and handle pattern potentially here too, which could be very bullish as well. But again, it's pretty important that we do hold this level, right? Like it's very important that we don't go too much lower than this flag, for instance, right? The bottom of this flag, which honestly is pretty much anywhere in the low 200s, right? It really depends on when we decide to come down to really do this. It's raining pretty heavily outside. When we decide to do this fourth touch point on this flag, but anywhere down here, anywhere between 211 to, honestly, even if it happens to say Friday, like 205, just anywhere in that range, in my opinion, as long as we hold, is fine. It's not a problem, in my opinion, at least for now. But, I do expect us to base around there, get a bit of a, maybe a dead cat bounce, whatever. And then we pretty much just wait for, either one of two things to happen or both, really, right? Either we wait for these, indicators to start showing some bullish, momentum returning, right? So for instance, you want to start seeing this indicator, for instance, not showing lower lows like this. You want to start seeing it showing higher lows or higher highs even, right? That you want to see something like that. I really want to see this stochastic flip bullish. This is one of my favorite indicators, or at least it's becoming one of my favorite indicators. Whenever this thing is flip bearish, there's a damn good chance that, the stock is most likely going lower, right? Same thing happened with Shopify, just as an example with stochastic, right? For instance, Shopify had this nice little rally, had this, bit of a crossover here that was, not super convincing yet, but, ended up crashing back down below, and the stochastic crossed back to bearish, and it's just been selling off pretty aggressively ever since, right? I did start entering Shopify as well, by the way, today, but, this is the power of the stochastic. It just shows the momentum, and until this thing starts crossing over, that's when I think we can start getting back to bullish. Like for instance, remember when I said that we're way overextended up here? This is a place to start being cautious, right? Doesn't mean we have to crash right then, right now, but it's a place, it's warning signs, right? And I've said this many times, it's like essentially warning signs. We were entering pretty historic levels on the stochastic, right? So keep that in mind. Like that's, you can't ignore these kind of signs, right? That's really important. But now, on the bright side, we are starting to enter the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Not as extreme, of course, but we're starting to enter potentially oversold territories on the stochastic. So that's a good sign, right? Obviously, there's still more work to be done. We still want to see a crossover, of course, but, at least we're not completely and utterly overbought, right? We're starting to enter potentially oversold territory, which is, a good thing to see, right? Same with the MACD, same idea as stochastic. It's a bit slower of an indicator, in my opinion, compared to stochastic. I like stochastic more personally, but same idea with the MACD. Once this thing eventually starts to flip bullish, the green over the red, essentially, another good sign. So I'll be looking for all those situations, right? To, I guess, play out, if you will, right? That's gonna be really, really important, right? The weekly, of course, MACD definitely crossed bearish here as well. So, it's definitely some concerning signs here, but I still think as long as we hold this pattern on the daily chart, it's not too bad, right? We also have the monthly MACD, starting to curl up, starting to make higher lows. The monthly MACD is starting to look pretty decent, even if this monthly candle closes looking like this, which is, kind of ugly. The monthly MACD is still setting up for potentially pretty massive run coming up. So, we'll see how that plays out, but that's going to take some time, of course, right? This will take literally months, a few more months potentially to play out. So I wouldn't hold my breath for this, but, it's kind of around the corner on the monthly perspective. So keep that in mind, keep your eyes on that. But again, looking at the daily chart, pretty simple stuff, right? Take the Fibonacci, for instance, from this swing low to the swing high over here. You can take a look at it like that, right? The 0.5 level is pretty much around 205 roughly, right? I'm not drawn to perfection here, but if we come down to the 0.5 level, which is not really surprising, if it were to happen at this point, sometime maybe even by Friday or early next week, that would be that gap fill, right? Slightly below it. I'd expect a bounce around that. That would be that fourth touch point. And that's kind of the level and my main target, really. Again, these very, very low 200 levels, right? A little bit lower than even what we closed today. One way to look at it is this, right? 1 hour chart, for instance. If you go to the 1 hour chart, right? We have this little trend line from this, low back over here when we were at 167, right? This is pretty much right before we really started the momentum back up, went sideways, and we continued going up. We kind of touched the touch point twice here on the trend line, right? Back here and over here when we were around 182, right? And we obviously escaped it pretty far. Now we're coming right back into it. Now, the issue here is the fact that we actually did close the 1 hour candle below it. You can see we did actually bounce off of it for the most of the day. The last hour or like half an hour or so of the market was pretty bearish, and we pretty much the whole market sold off towards the end of the day. And what happened? Well, we closed down below. That's a little bit concerning. So tomorrow, best case scenario, we could imagine is about a move to 217, 218, probably to retest, and then I expect us to make our way back down even further, probably to around 211 at the very least, in my opinion, for that gap fill, like 210, 211, if not lower to about 205. That's the place, in my opinion, if we do get there, would be a very good place to continue adding. And that's probably what I'll be doing. I have some sold puts in that area for next week, but I will also be adding shares directly as well if we get there personally. Of course, leaving ammo for even further, if we do slip even further. I don't think we will, but you never know. It's always good to be risk adverse, in my opinion, to a certain extent, obviously to your own personal, situation, I guess. That's just how I like to do it. But yeah, again, just the way, plain and simple. I mean, the way I look at it is the fact that, this is still we're still in a bullish move here. We're still in a bullish move, even though today feels pretty not bullish. We still have that bull flag, we still have that cup and handle, we still have all these situations setting up for us are still looking promising. There's still some work to be done, but as long as we hold this bull flag / handle of the cup and handle, I think we're looking still pretty solid. So we'll see how that plays out. I still expect us to move a little bit lower ultimately, again, to really get a proper fourth touch point on this bull flag, because we really haven't actually gotten it just yet. So expect that, coming up relatively soon. Maybe if I draw like this, you can kind of get a better idea. I think it was something like this, right? You can see we didn't really fully touch it. I guess we're pretty close to it. It really depends on where you want to draw this from. Do you want to draw this from here and then connect it like this? Kind of makes sense. Or you want to do like this, and technically we haven't touched it yet, and tomorrow potentially we can get to it. It really depends on how you want to draw it, obviously. But again, that combined with horizontal resistances, I think the 210 to 205 level is pretty damn juicy. It's pretty damn juicy. So that's the area I'll be looking at pretty, I don't know, with a scope and, very closely, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So pay attention to that. Now, in terms of options flow, Tesla actually had, believe it or not, the most confirmed bullish flow today, 22 million, nothing crazy, but still by far the highest, which is good to see. Bearish flow, Google had the most bearish flow today, right? Tesla, obviously a lot of puts, a lot of calls coming in throughout the day, right? For instance, you had a nice little call come in over here, 100,000 for pretty much this Friday actually came in when Tesla was at 220. And it's a 232.5 strike. So they're clearly not happy with that unless they took profit on the tiny rally dollar above that, which would be surprising. I'm not really sure. No, actually, I'm pretty sure we sold off ever since this. So I'm not really sure what they're doing to manage that position, but we'll see. But nonetheless, there were some calls coming in, right? You had a 1.43 million call come in over here. Pretty much January 2026, couldn't even speak there. 200 strikes, so it is pretty, of course, safe, of course. Now let me find another one. There was a few others that I did see throughout the day. For instance, we had a put come in, September 20th over here, 1 million. There was here 2.38 million call came in when Tesla was at pretty much $221 per share, which is a 220 strike for October 18th. So they're obviously under right now. We'll see if they're actually correct about this. Another one over here, right? This one was for this expiration of this Friday, 1.41 million when Tesla was at 220, expiring this Friday. Obviously, they're probably down on that unless they took some quick little profits when Tesla did get a small pump. Another one here, 1.27 million call option came in here, 530 strike. Again, it's pretty much 2 years out, but that's quite a lot. So clearly this whale is bullish long term, which I am as well, very much so. And that's just the way I look at it, plain and simple, right? Again, I think Tesla overall long term, very, very bullish. Short term, well, like I said many times up here, momentum is weakening. Obviously, we saw that, this massive move to the downside. And I'd expect it to continue a little bit further before we really base out. And I expect the base, and I'll be pretty much waiting. I'll be buying the dip, but I'll be, really confirmed and, that we bottomed out and ready to move higher once I see the stochastic, especially the stochastic, start flipping bullish. And that's where I'll be a little bit more convinced, honestly. But all in all, that's kind of it for what I have for you guys today, ladies and gentlemen. So let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. And one thing you'll notice is the fact that now that, when we were up here, everyone was calling for 300. It happens every single freaking time, man. Every time Tesla gets these rallies, everyone's like, oh, well, 300 is next, guys, next week. Make sure you load up. Oh, that's clearly not what happened, right? You want to be careful when you listen to these things, right? And we've been pretty, unbiased in my opinion. At least I try to be as unbiased as I can, regardless of my position that I currently have, right? I did buy the dip today. I am obviously down on the shares I bought pre earnings, but again, I was willing to accept that. It was half of my core position on purpose because there was still upside exposure. I just didn't think it was likely, which is why I only went in with half of my usual exposure to Tesla, re-added it on this dip, and I will continue adding on this dip, moving down even further, which I do think will happen. So again, I'm doing my best to be unbiased, just giving you what I see. It doesn't matter what my positions are. Usually my positions reflect my opinion, of course, but yeah, anyway, the point I'm trying to mention here is the fact that everyone was bullish up here. I don't know how they can be that bullish. Very strange, but we're down here now, and I think everyone's going to start getting very bearish and calling for sub 200, sub 180, and they'll be like, yeah, I'll add sub 180, so I'll add one sub 180, and then we never get there. We'll see. But nonetheless, thanks so much for watching. Weekly chart definitely looking a little bit ugly, but if we can end this week back above about 200, mid 200s, 220s, that'll be very bullish. If we can end above about mid 220s this week, very bullish. I think that'll be very bullish. We have a massive bear trap down below this. I even said this yesterday, remember? I expect a massive red candle, potentially even going below this trend line. But if we can end back above this trend line by the week's end, Friday, of course, that is going to be bullish. I think that's going to be very bullish, and I think that's going to be a very nice potential for a move back up. That's what I expect right now. So we'll see. Anyway, I expect a morning flush, and I will most likely continue adding the dip. But all that being said and done, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.